morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Today is the 4th of March, year of our Lord 2024. Welcome to yet another edition of the Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Hinkle, a.k.a. Motown Noah. Got a big show for you guys today. The move has officially been completed. If you use this show as both a visual and an audio experience, you can see a lot of boxes going on in the background. I said you're going to have to give me some grace on the camera placement. Still trying to figure out what I want my setup to look like, but for the time being, this is what we're going to roll with for today's show, probably even for Friday's show. Boy, oh boy, it has been quite the strenuous process. Just been like constructing furniture over the last few days. Gotten real familiar with those Allen wrenches, the Allen keys, the like L-shaped things that come with like all furniture, and they're sort of universal and you can use them on most things. Yeah, my hands are super raw because of those. And then, you know how when you finally move out of the house, and like your dad for Christmas or for your birthday will like give you a toolkit, and they're like, every household needs one. And what I've always thought that is, and you know, once I become a dad, I think I'm gonna have this theory confirmed, is you get to an age with your kids where you're like, I don't know what to get them, so you're just like tools. One day they will come in handy, 100%. Guess what, Dad? That day was today. And Maddie's dad also, my girlfriend had also given us some before. And then I don't remember which one it was, but one of our dads doubled up and like definitely forgot the year before that they had already done it. And then so we ended up getting two for them. I don't remember which dad it was. But the good news is whatever one the extra one was is actually the one I ended up having to use. Got the nice little like the magnetic heads, the switchable heads for the screwdriver. There's like 50 different things in there. Been like Bob the Builder recently, which is cool, but as somebody who's not historically handy, you know, my girlfriend sort of tied herself to somebody for the rest of her life that, for all intents and purposes, doesn't really know his way around like a toolbox. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm doing. But everything's been getting put together a couch, put together the desk that I'm on right now, put together some chairs. I spent 6.5 hours on a dresser yesterday. I do this thing, ladies and gentlemen. So it's been busy. Been a lot going on. Additionally, as of yesterday, I got my first nephew born into the world. Today's actually my sister's birthday, so she had a baby yesterday. It's her third, the day before her birthday. And then one of her other daughters, her birthday is in a few days. 3 birthdays in the same week. So in a few years, that's going to be, oh my God. But he's beautiful. I can't wait to meet him. So excited to meet him. I love my nieces. And now I love my nephew. Let's jump into today's show. Actually, pause, record scratch, freeze frame. You're probably wondering how I got here. We got to talk. Can I bring one thing up? I was on Reddit yesterday. I'm scrolling. I'm like taking a break from building this dresser. And I see a video of Liam Neeson. I'm like, huh? And Liam Neeson spends like 2.5 minutes talking about the kids in Gaza. And I was like, oh, all right. Well, that's a noble cause. That's a valiant cause. And as I'm watching him, I'm like, what's going on with Liam Neeson? I was like, we haven't really seen him or heard from him in a few years. And then I remembered why. I was like, oh, okay, that's right. So the last time we heard from Liam Neeson, it was like 2019, and he was doing promo for a movie. And he just kind of inexplicably jumps into this story about how somebody really close to him had gotten sexually assaulted. And he asked the woman, like, well, what did they look like? And she described what they looked like. And he was like, what color were they? And she was like, they were black. And he was like, so I spent the next week going up and down these streets with a club, basically just hoping that a black person would try to fight me. And he was like, I was going to beat the shit out of them and I was going to kill them. And he was like, I learned a lot from that experience. And I was like, what did you fucking learn? That you can conflate all black people as like a hive mind. And then if one person did it, then they all must be in on it. They all must be in on the take. Well, phrasing. I don't like it that way. Like, huh? And the interviewer's just sitting there like, I asked you how some of your co-stars were on set. Like, what the fuck? So that's why we haven't heard from Liam Neeson in a while. It was because of that. But now, again, pretty noble cause. Like, hey, I guess if you're going to throw your hat in the ring on anything, I guess it's, you know, it should be like, hey, how about these Palestinian kids? And then there was like a congressman or a senator or something. This woman was like, hey, like these kids are getting shredded by these bombs. Like, can you guys stop? And he was like, no, I want them all to die. Like, point blank, that's just what he said. That's just, there's subtitles and everything. You can hear it clear as day. That's just what he said. And the video cuts off, but the woman was clearly just kind of like, wow, huh? Like, that he actually just said that. They should all die, is what he actually said. Wild. Why did I bring that up? Here's my... Can I give you guys something on this? So there's we got the whole ceasefire bullshit going on. Well, not bullshit, but we got the whole ceasefire thing going on right now, right? I don't like how we're starting Monday's show talking about this. I'm not gonna don't worry. We're not going anywhere crazy with this. I think one of the reasons sneaky that Hamas is like on the whole ceasefire thing, I don't think they have the numbers to get the deal done. I don't think they do. Because every single time we hear about a hostage dying, it's like, so they probably died in December. Probably. I think that's what it is. I don't think they have the juice. So let's jump into today's show. I wanted to talk to you guys about some numbers. Whoa, Nick, this is not a numbers podcast. You talk about that all the time. You talk about how you hate numbers. I would agree. I would say it's probably the most like old man yells at cloud thing about this show is how it's not like I'm opposed to people talking about advanced stats in the sense that like numbers scare me and like basketball is just more than numbers. Like you don't need to look at a spreadsheet to know who's good at playing basketball. Because two things can be true. One, I'm just dumb. I don't know how to use a lot of these numbers. Like pace, I don't know what the fuck that is. I don't know how that's calculated. We talk about VORP all the time. Stuff like that. Like, I just don't know how it works. And so because of that, you explaining to me, like, well, this guy leads the league in pace or, you know, whatever the number is that you want to use. Like defensive rating. I know what numbers are good, but I don't know how we arrive. I don't know what the equations are for some of these. So I just don't, when people say them to me, I'm just kind of like, whatever, you know. But then the other part of this is this is like a That Boy Nice watcher podcast, right? So I do just kind of prefer to do the eye test and be like, good. Like if I can just watch you play basketball and I don't have to jump into like all these advanced metrics to figure out if you're a good basketball player or not, like that's fun. I was saying in the comments, I was mixing it up the other day I think it was a breakout video that I uploaded about like it's okay to be wrong about NBA players sometimes. It was the segment I did on Friday. I turned that into a standalone video. And I was like, my version of scouting, quote unquote, for the NBA draft is literally just doing like a vibes check. I will sit here and, you know, if it's March Madness, like I don't watch that many college games live anymore. Just don't really have the time for it. So usually when, you know, once the Piston season is over is kind of when I start to jump into all this tape and whatnot. And if I can sit here and, you know, watch you play for an hour through these varying highlights and whatnot, even some lowlights, I think it's important to throw some of those in there because when you just watch highlights, it's like, okay, so you're just watching compilations of them doing good shit. Like, and you're not getting a lot out of that actually. Usually that's all that it is. It's just a vibes check. And I'm shooting at like a 70 to 80% clip with that. You know, every now and then someone will fall through the cracks. I'll just be completely wrong about it. One way or another, they turn out to be really good or they turn out to be horrible. Bilal Coulibaly, you know, I've been kind of mean to the Wizards lately. He was a guy he was probably the mystery box of last year's draft. No, and I bring up the Wizards thing because I've been really mean to them, but I've kind of buried the lead in how much I like Coulibaly because that dude is strong. That dude is fluid. His wingspan kind of allows him to get in these spaces around the rim and like create a shot opportunity where it didn't actually look like it existed when he started his drive, and that's really fun to watch. Not like an amazing passer, but he always makes the right pass at the exact right time. You know, it's always the fraction of a second that he needed to throw it when Corey Kispert, I don't know, is like coming off of a screen, right? That's always fun to see. They played a game against Philly a couple months ago, and Embiid just like gets the inbound, and Coulibaly just poked him immediately. Easy layup right there. It's just crafty, quick twitched. I really, really like him. And I think part of it is because when I watch him play, it's what I imagine Sekou Doumbouya was going to be. I think maybe that's what it is. So Wizards fans, I like Coulibaly a lot. But I want to talk a little bit about numbers today. And I'm going to introduce to you guys a new list of numbers that you are allowed to talk about on this channel. You know, usually when you leave some in the comments, I'll just be the arbiter of truth and I'll either call you an idiot and tell you to shut up, or I'll just delete the comment. I've never actually done that with when somebody brings up numbers, but usually I'll call you a nerd and tell you to shut up. You want to go over some that I think are acceptable and that I do like to look at, and I do think can be some good indications of whether or not a player is good. The first one we're going to start with isn't really about if they're good, but we'll explain all of them. Let's start with a fun one, an easy one. Usage percentage. That one's easy. Right now, if you look at the leaders in the league, Luka leads the league 35.5%, Giannis at 32, Shea at 31.8, Anthony Edwards at 31.6, Victor Wembanyama, I'm going to round up 0.1, at 31% usage rating. I think the reason I like this one so much is because, you know, what you can do is you can look at points per game as like a good indication of like who the best players in the league are. I think usage is going to be up there too. And I think it's because, especially in recent years, I feel like we've kind of seen some numbers that are like astronomically high. And I always just think it's a good indication of who the biggest stars in the league are. I mean, listen to the guys that we just named again, right? I mean, it's Luka, it's Giannis, it's Shea, it's Anthony Edwards, Victor Wembanyama. You keep going down the list. Donovan Mitchell, Steph Curry, De'Aaron Fox, Jaren Jackson at a cool 30%, and then Kyle Kuzma taking up the rear. Well, at 29.8% in Washington. I mentioned some stuff about Kuzma the other day, and you guys had a lot of shit to say. You guys don't like Kyle Kuzma? That broke my heart. Devastated me that you guys were like, no, fuck that guy's vibes. Like, he's the same thing as Jordan Poole. He's not the same thing as Jordan Poole at all. You guys don't even mean that. You don't even mean that at all. Second one that I like a lot, and I mean this one, screen assists, okay? Screen assists are like the one thing outside of the realm of shit that quote-unquote actually matters in the stat sheet that I'm a sicko for. Not a sicko in the way that, like, Utah Jazz fans were for, like, 6 years. Whatever Rudy Gobert would get, like, 10 screen assists in a game, and they'd be like, oh, he's quadruple-double. Oh, Rudy Gobert has a triple-double if you factor in screen assists. That's, like, the craziest copium of all time. That is truly, you could do that. I don't know how they didn't get to the coping hour before I did, that they were counting Rudy Gobert's screen assists to, like, triple-doubles. That's fucking crazy. That's nasty. Here's a question, and we'll get back to screen assists in a second. This is an idea that I've wanted to float out to Jacob, a.k.a. Rusty Buckets, to, like, make... I don't know how he would make a video on this. I don't think he can. It would kind of just have to come up organically and, like, in passing. But I just think he would have a really good perspective on this for some reason. When did we change our minds about Rudy Gobert? And you may be sitting there at home and you may be, when did we change our minds? It's still fuck that guy. Like, who cares? No. But, like, really think about it. The public perception on him has changed in the last, like, year. Since he's gotten to Minnesota, the way that people talk about him and the way that people are more willing to praise him on the defensive end, I think is really interesting. There's definitely some fatigue with voting for him for Defensive Player of the Year. People are like, oh, we have to do this again, which is weird because they, like, didn't do that for Dwight Howard. Maybe they did, and I'm just misremembering it, right? Maybe I'm just being blissfully ignorant, but I don't really remember that happening. They didn't do it for Ben Wallace either. So what is it about Rudy Gobert that people have that fatigue? I understand it with MVP. I don't understand it with Defensive Player of the Year. If you're good, you're good. Bam Adebayo's never going to win one. He probably should, though, right? It's just always going to go to Rudy Gobert. But the public perception of him, I think it helps that Minnesota's really good, but the Jazz had good teams. The Jazz were never, well, not never, but the Jazz had some really good seasons with Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. But for some reason, people just hated that duo. They hated that pairing. I guess now you put him with Karl Anthony Towns, you put him with, like, Anthony Edwards, and people are like, oh, no. Put him with Naz Reid. People are like, I get on board with it. It's not that bad. Okay, all right. What happened is my question. Because even I, in my head, for some reason, I kind of get tricked. And you know what I think it is? Ooh, here's what, maybe this is it. Coming to me in real time, so this is a half-baked take. We spent years listening to Jazz fans, a fan base that, with all due respect, people are like, shut up. Most of the time, people are like, shut up. You guys don't have anything. Shut up. We had to listen to the bunch of Mormons. Shut the hell up. We had to listen to them be like, no. Like, Rudy Gobert is really good. And we could see it with Donovan Mitchell, right? It wasn't hard to convince ourselves of it. But with Rudy Gobert, I think going to a new team, you have an entirely new fan base. You know, millions of people who are now helping spread the propaganda. So we just kind of increased the influx of people hyping him up. You know what I mean? And so now our brains have been tricked, including mine apparently, into thinking that more people like him, when actually all that it is it's a new fan. But if you ask Timberwolves fans, and I'm really straying here, we're supposed to be talking about screen assists. If you ask Minnesota Timberwolves fans, they're all going to be like, honestly, dude, I didn't get it. I thought it was a bad trade. I thought it was a waste of money. But then Rudy Gobert came and he started, like, swatting shit off the backboard and grabbing like 15 rebounds a game. And you're like, huh? You're like, whoa. I didn't realize the impact that he has on the defensive end. Okay. So I don't know what happened there. Screen assists. Here's why I like them so much. Let's look at the league leaders right now. We got Sabonis at 1, Jalen Duren at 2, Rudy Gobert at 3. Yusuf Nurkic grabbing 31 rebounds for the Suns. The fact that Yusuf Nurkic, first of all, is still even alive. You guys remember that leg injury he had a few years ago? I don't know how dudes ever recover from those or are ever the same after them. Gordon Hayward, the most relatable thing about him, probably in his career, was that after the ankle injury he had with the Celtics, you know, what was it, 2.5 minutes into that debut against the Cavs, this like huge moment for the NBA, huge moment for the NBA. We just had this crazy offseason, this tumultuous offseason, honestly, for both the Celtics and the Cavs, having to navigate this this sort of severed Isaiah Thomas relationship. The Cavs figuring out what they're going to do with Kyrie. They just swap players. Gordon Hayward also ends up in Boston, and they're playing on opening night, huh? Was that ring night for the... It couldn't have been. It would have been the... Would that have been the start of the... Holy shit, wait, was that? No. It was 2017, so it was not. Anyways. And like 2.5 minutes into the game, Gordon Hayward, this huge moment, just snaps his ankle in half, and you're all just like, whoa. The game, like, they obviously, you know, 15, 20 minutes later, they get Gordon Hayward off the court. And you realize that they still have to play the game. You're like, I don't even want to be watching this right now. This feels like voyeuristic that we're watching dudes process these emotions in real time. You know, Dwayne Wade was on that team. They had Derrick Rose. Like, it was a weird situation that sucked. But the most relatable thing about him was that it took him like 2 years to feel normal, to feel comfortable getting off the floor, like jumping again, because he was worried that, you know, he's going to land wrong. He's going to land on somebody else. And that's the psychology of that is fascinating to me, because you would think that that would just be all guys, and I'm sure in some way it is, right? I'm sure Sean Livingston dealt with that a little bit. I'm sure Paul George had a little bit of that. Paul George, his was probably just being a little more cautious, you know, attacking downhill, going towards the basket, and not getting his leg caught in the stanchion. Probably that. But going back to screen assists, I guess this is really producing some good mental exercises for me, because I just keep going on these. I just keep ISOing and going off on these tangents. Coming up last, we had Nikola Jokic, and Anthony Davis tied for 5th. And the reason I think it's important to highlight screen assists here is because, yeah, Sabonis, you know, leading the charge. Like, that makes sense. That's an all-star player. You could argue he's the Kings' best player between him and De'Aaron Fox. You want to have the conversation. I mean, De'Aaron Fox leads in usage. Sabonis leading in screen assists. Which one are you going to value more? Probably the usage, right? De'Aaron Fox turning into, I mean, 10 times the player in terms of efficiency than I ever thought he would be. Not that I thought he was a chucker, but I didn't think he was going to be like this. I didn't think he was going to be able to shoot at this clip. The reason I think this is interesting is because you look at screen assists, and usually it's a lot of guys. I guess, I mean, this is kind of disproving my point. You look at the bottom, it's like Nick Richards and Daniel Gafford. Kind of goes closer to what I'm talking about. It's just like dudes. It's usually closer to role players. What you don't see is the MVP, and to the approximation of some, the best player in the league, you know, top 5 in screen assists. That's what makes Jokic so good, is his ability to get guys involved. And this isn't new, right? We all know this. But his ability in a 3-minute span to make sure that everybody touches the ball at least 5 times, and to set as many screens as he does, even as somebody who has the ball as much as he does, that's incredible. That's incredible. You do not see the MVP in the league up there in screen assists literally ever. Can I give you guys another one that I really, really like? This is the last one, and we'll move on. Assist-to-turnover ratio. I don't know what it is about that one, but to me, that's always a good indicator of, well, obviously, just who's the most secure with the ball and who's the most efficient passer. If we look at the top 10 in the league right now, you got Tyus Jones, Mike Conley, Tyrese Halliburton, Fred VanVleet, Spencer Dinwiddie, Peyton Pritchard, Trey Jones, Al Horford, that's interesting, TJ McConnell, and Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey being in there kind of surprises me. I'd have to look at that, dive into the stats a little bit, dive into those numbers. Does Tyrese Maxey not just turn the ball over what feels like every 4th possession? while also at the same time being safe and responsible with the ball? I guess not, because he's top 10 in assist to turnover ratio. Another reason I like this one so much is because it's easy to trick yourself about it. Like, Killian Hayes, for all intents and purposes, throughout his tenure in Detroit, always had a decent to really good assist to turnover ratio. I think at its peak, he probably got up to like 5.5, 6. Like, huh? Safe and responsible with the ball. But again, it's easy to trick yourself because then you're like, well, what else does he do? And you're like, well, he doesn't do anything else. But I don't know. You look at some of these guys on this list. None of them are bums. TJ McConnell's not a bum. Mike Conley is not a bum. Like, all-time nice guy. If the Basketball Hall of Fame was like, who's the nicest guy in the league, Mike Conley would have been first ballot 10 years ago, like while he was still in the league. So there you guys go. Screen assists, assist to turnover ratio, usage percentage. These are the stats that you guys are allowed to talk about here at the Coping Hour. Let's move on. copingoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically, is the email to the show if you ever feel inclined to send something in. Email will also always be available in the description for wherever you listen to the show. I got to give a quick, some asshole left a comment the other day, and he's like, Coping Hour subs spelled phonetically. He was like, ours you would think is spelled differently. And even if he's, so it's not phonetic is what he's saying. So even if he's right, you're a fucking asshole. Shut up. Because 5-year-olds don't listen to the show. I gotta say, oh my, I should have led with this. I was delving into the Spotify stats, something I haven't done in a little bit. First of all, very happy with how that's. I had no idea. People, wow, you guys really listen to this show on Spotify. So thank you guys. Actually, thank you. I want to say that very genuinely. If you listen to this on Spotify, I think I always just think of it through the lens of it's available on Spotify, but most people listen to it on YouTube. I guess not. I guess a lot of people do get up and listen to this on Spotify. So thank you guys for that. Well, I guess maybe while we're on the topic, just because if I don't mention this, someone's going to leave a comment and ask about it. No, it's not coming to Apple anytime soon. You guys can blame Tim Cook for that. Once they do video-supported shows, it'll go on there. And that's the same thing for anywhere else that you listen to podcasts. For right now, it's only going to exist on Spotify because Spotify supports video podcasts. So there you go. Let's jump into this email. One of my favorites that we've ever gotten. Truly. From Jesse. Jesse, welcome to the show. Hi, Nick. Well, subject line, Malice at LCA. Hi, Nick. I see you doing a lot of adolescent therapy on the show, which, congratulations, but I'd figure I'd give you something more open-ended and lighthearted than a self-help question. Thank you, Jesse. I want you to do a 5-minute segment on what the Malice at the Palace would have looked like if it was in downtown Detroit in LCA in 2024. Do the police shoot a fan? Does an injured Reggie Miller do a TikTok live stream one-handed while restraining Ron Artest with the other? Does an opportunistic fan take advantage of the chaos to steal stadium memorabilia? The choice is yours. Best, Meta World Violence. Incredible email. And this is definitely one of those that I'm not going to think of something. I'm opening the floor on this one. Please leave comments. Please give me your thoughts. If I miss something, tell me what would happen. If there was a large-scale brawl similar to the Malice at the Palace in 2024 at LCA, what would it look like? You know what I think it would be? I think it would be less of players fighting each other, and it would be mostly them just, like, holding each other back. Like, sans Isaiah Stewart. Like, he would be in the mix, like, throwing elbows and, like, punching little kids. And I say that in an endearing way. I don't say that in a way that, like, slights Isaiah Stewart. I would want that shit to happen. A worst-case scenario, like, doomsday scenario. And I guess you're asking, like, what if it was the same teams? If it was just in 2024, I'm going to tweak the question a little bit and just assume it's like modern day players, right? The worst case scenario is that Jalen Duren gets involved because that dude is a tree. You don't want that to happen. But it would mostly just be guys like bigging their chest and acting like they're going to do something. I think the real danger, to your point, would be the fans. Because not that this is like a new epidemic, because it's always been this way in some form, and I'd say the ebbs and flows of it, like it was bad like 40 years ago, and then it kind of, people relaxed, but now it's back again, that fans feel very emboldened to be assholes and talk shit. I mean, we just saw the other night, was it in Dallas? Those two fans who called Kevin Durant a bitch, and then the woman, God bless this woman, immediately trying to dap KD. The visuals of it are incredible. Like maybe will go down as one of 2024's funniest videos is her being like shocked that she didn't get a dap from KD. Like, what the like, don't leave her hanging, Kevin. Come on. Also good for him for, honestly, dude, the way that he handled that situation is why I love Kevin Durant so much. Because, yeah, he had every right to get them kicked out, and he had every right to be like, fuck these people, like, ban them from the arena. But he was like, they're drunk, they're just being stupid. Like, what was his quote? It was something to the effect of, like, I get when you want to go to the zoo, you want to pet the animals, but then the animal bites back, and you find out that the animal is actually a real person after all. Something to that effect. Like, he's right. So I say that just to say fans are very emboldened in 2024. Alcohol sales are at like an all-time high in these arenas, in these stadiums across the 4 major sports in America. I mean, hell, who knows what goes on in Europe? Who knows what goes on at some of these Premier League games, some of these Champion Leagues games? Even like the lower league games, I feel like is maybe where shit really pops off. Is that where those fuckers pop flares? Can someone explain that to me? Can one of my European listeners explain to the class why you guys light flares? Especially in basketball games in like a closed arena. Why is that allowed? I'm not saying it doesn't look cool, because it does. It looks very, very cool. Is that not a safety hazard? Do they like screen before the game? Hey, is anybody in here asthmatic? No? All right, light the flares. Like, we're good. We can light flares. Do they do that? They take the appropriate safety precautions? I'm straying from the question here. It would mostly be fans that would get involved. I think a lot of them would get onto the court. There would be more shit thrown onto the floor than you've probably ever seen. It would be like reminiscent of like Dollar Dog Night at a Phillies game where people are just drunk off of hot dogs, honestly, throwing shit onto the field. Just do the police shoot a fan? Here's what the problem would be in Detroit. There's a bar on the floor. Like on the court in the back of one of the behind one of the baskets, there's literally a bar on the floor. And more arenas are starting to sort of follow suit with this. I think Atlanta was the first one to do it, and then we were like, that's a good idea. We want to do that. Do I think people would feel emboldened to take advantage of the chaos and like loot the merch stores? I don't think so, because chaos like that, I don't think it extends beyond like what's actually going on the floor. I don't think that's going to escalate and carry over into the concourse. I don't think it would. Because that would entail, like, if someone got shot, yes, definitely. And even if somebody did get shot, I think it would just be like, are rubber bullets really real? I know they're real and I know they exist, but it's not like a cop in an arena would have a rubber bullet, right? Like, and I've always also just not understood how those actually work, because they obviously hurt, but they can kill you. I thought they just couldn't kill you, and that's why people use it. No, they can kill you, I guess. Maybe that's not true. It's such a fun question. Phone usage would be at an all-time high. I don't think any of the players would really do anything. I don't think they would be the story at all. Like, well, I guess also that's kind of what made the Malice at the Palace what it was, is because even though it started with the players, it ended up with the fans. Whoa, and this is, I'm just not going to have enough time to think about this. The most likely player in the NBA to go into the stands. Isaiah Stewart would be in the top 10. He would be in the top 10. I don't think Draymond would do it. I don't think he would. If we want to look at this through a historical lens, and you guys remember Marcus Smart's college days, I mean, based on what that fan allegedly or confirmed said, I don't remember. It was fucking over 10 years ago at this point. I don't remember if it actually happened or if it's just sort of the word of mouth. We're assuming this is what happened. What that guy said to Marcus Smart at Oklahoma State to get him into the crowd. I think if any fan said that to any player, you would be like, yeah, that's valid. Like, go kill him. Like, would Russell Westbrook do it? I don't think Russell Westbrook would do it, because there was that dude who, like, point blank in his face was like, fuck you, and, like, gave him both the fingers. And Russell Westbrook had, like, the all-time, like, reaction to it. You know what I mean? He wouldn't do it. There's gonna be somebody that, like, Kai Jones probably would have gone into the stands in a situation like this. This is a great question, dude. I'm opening the floor. Please let me know what I missed. I'll heart all the comments that are right. and let's move on. We got 2 emails over the weekend that I thought were fun, but I didn't have anything to say to them. I was just going to kind of give them the floor. This first one came in, obviously, and I was first. And I was like, I think I want to read this one and just read the email. And I was going to save it to the end of the show because, again, I didn't have anything to add. I just thought it was really well written, and I wanted to give this guy the opportunity to get his shit off. So let's do that first, and then we have another one after. And they're kind of the same thing. It's just fans being upset about their teams. And honestly, when this show started, that was the point, was for you guys to air your grievances, and then that was kind of it, like get in and get out. And I just want you guys to be heard. This one comes to us from Michael. Michael, welcome to the show. Subject line, the Cleveland Browns grievance letter. Congrats on 30 episodes. A longtime fan. Love the show. I've been a Cleveland Browns fan for my entire 21 years of being on this earth. It's honestly a miserable existence, but I'll still ride with my team until I die, or they move out of Cleveland. Parenthetically, again. I'm not old enough to remember the heartbreaks that happened in the 1980s, or when Art Medell just moved our entire fucking franchise to Baltimore in the 90s out of fucking nowhere, but only witnessing 4 winning seasons in my life is pretty bad. Never forget our legendary 1-31 run between 2 seasons. All that being said, I'd feel better rooting for Deshaun fucking Kaiser than being a fan of Deshaun Watson. All those years of making fun of Pittsburgh for Roethlisberger being their quarterback finally got to us. Even if we overlook the fact that he's accused of over 24 separate cases of sexual misconduct/assault, some of which are still ongoing, he's been outshined by a 39-year-old Joe Arm Punt Flacco, who was literally a stay-at-home dad until week 13 of the season. Not to mention, we for some reason thought it would be a good idea to give a guy with an injury history who hasn't played a down of football in over 2 seasons a bajillion-dollar contract, completely shattering the QB salary market and putting us in salary cap hell for the foreseeable future. Just to break the email for a second, that will go down as like an all-time what the fuck decision. And if the Lions weren't turning a corner and like becoming a serious franchise, it would be either the Browns or the Lions historically to have done this. It was going to be one of us, dude, and I'm sorry that it happened to you. But if it wasn't you, it would have been me, and I would have rather it happened to you. So you're completely right. Back to the email. Joe Flacco has more passing touchdowns than Watson does in his entire tenure as a Cleveland Brown. The offense without Nick Chubb is honestly putrid. I knew we were very banged up this season, but we led the league in drop passes, had an embarrassing cast of QBs if you don't count Flacco, and had an underwhelming rushing attack after Chubb went down. Parenthetically, can't really blame them for that, though. Yeah, you're right. You can't. It's not their fault. I think the fact that you're a Lions fan helps because Detroit might be the only other team that can rival how abhorrent this team has been for my entire life. Now I'm just upset because I can't even feel good rooting for my team. Just had to get this off my chest. And then at the end here, obligatory basketball take. Cavs are going to get bounced in the first round of the playoffs again. I can just feel it. Have a wonderful day. Dude, Michael is fucking going through it. And he's just saying, fuck it, all of my teams stink. Who cares? Here's why I like the basketball take at the end. Is because usually when you guys send in an email that isn't about basketball and you feel like you have to throw in a basketball take at the end, it's always just the worst take. Somehow, after an hour of me talking, it always ends up being worse than anything I've said in this episode. It's always just like, you're just always something half-baked and bullshit. This is real, though. That's a real take. That's a dude being honest about his team. Because bounced in the first round, like not swept, but bounced in the first round, it could happen. Like with Cleveland this year, it could happen. Although they've been kind of on a heater lately. I never mentioned, I think I've only would have had one opportunity to do it since it happened. But the Max Strus, like 3.5 minute heater that he went on, Jacob aka Rusty Buckets made a point that there's an argument to be made that it was the clutchest late game performance that we've ever seen in the history of the NBA. Like the dude literally just checked in, hit 3 threes or 4 threes, and then just rips the net on this full court shot. There is a compelling case to be made that even though Tracy did 13 points in 35 seconds, nah, man, nah, stop, Nick, stop. It's not going to be better than that. It's just not. You know what I was reliving the other day? How about that? Oh, my God. The Celtics? We'll talk about the Celtics in a minute. Let me get to the other email. I don't have anything to say. This guy, I just thought it was a beautifully written email. Like, truly, you can tell how much this guy cares. And I just wanted to give him the floor to talk about that. You know, as a Lions fan, yeah, man, like, I don't think about how bad we've been anymore. I just think about how good we were this season and how this team is being built for sustained success. You know, it's easy to recognize that the NFC North is only going to get better and that it is going to be pretty competitive this year. you can do the whole thing where it's like, ooh, that was your shot. Like, you guys should have done it. Yeah, we should have. We should have, but we didn't. The truth is that this team still has all the right guys under contract. Like, nobody important is leaving. Are they going to go after L'Jarius Sneed? We'll see. Brad Holmes just won an award for, like, the best draft class of the year with the dudes that we got last year with Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Brian Branch. Like, this is what he does. He gets all the right pieces, and he and Dan know how to use them. So that's what I think about now. As a Browns fan, I can't imagine. I mean, you think of the infamous, like, the quarterback jersey with, like, 40 different names on it. Fuck Johnny Manziel talking about, like, well, you're not actually considered a bust until you officially retired. I'll just say that. You're not getting picked up, dude. Is that why he's doing so much press lately? Is that why we're hearing so much from him? I love Johnny Manziel. He will always have a special place in my heart. Like, he will always be that dude. He will always be the guy who, when I was playing high school football, you wanted to be like Johnny, especially as a kid who was playing quarterback at the time, right? Like, you wanted to do all of the shit that he was doing, including off the field. We can be honest about it, right? But stop with this bullshit that, like, you think you're going to make some, like, NFL comeback, because you're not. And, yeah, maybe you'll go to the CFL. I would probably not, though, right? It's a really hard league to get into. Are we going to see Johnny in, like, is it the XFL or the USFL now? Whichever one got merged into the other. Maybe he'll be in that in a spring league next year, and he'll use that as, like, a tryout, as, like, a springboard. But it's not going to happen. Like, it's over. Shut up, dude. It's not worth it. So that's that. Thank you, Michael, for the email. And then we got one from Tom, a frequent emailer into the show. Some of you may remember him because he sent in, like, 2 emails back-to-back, like, a couple months ago. And in both of the emails was like, I'm on vacation with my girlfriend. And I was like, why the fuck are you emailing the show? Like, please enjoy your vacation with your girlfriend. Well, he's back. And subject line, all caps, Wizards have officially made me a copium addict. Tom, welcome back to the show. Hey, Nick, on vacation with my girlfriend again. And now is the perfect time for me to email about a Washington Wizards team that fucking stinks, as you would say. I'm sad to say I've watched more of these games this season than ever, and I'm a big Marvin Bagley believer, so I was one of the few who loved the trade from the start. You're welcome. Since then, we have seemingly gone down the metaphorical shitter, and I can't deal with this team right now. As a Pistons fan, and as you've intimated multiple times, I know you've quit the season, and I'm just wondering if you would advocate the same thing for me. I also want to know if you see any overlap in the directions the two are heading and the similarities amongst the changes necessary for our teams to be watchable again. I love you and value the input. While I'm aware you may blah, 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 blah. Yeah, he just wants my take on this. And then at the end, he goes, I'm getting pulled out of the bathroom right now by my girlfriend. I shall make myself available at your request. Because he wanted to know if I wanted his commander's take. Tom, send in all the emails you want, dude. I don't care. I don't know if I'll... Like, I really like Sam Howell, actually. Like, weirdly a lot. I have no reason to like Sam Howell as much as I do. I just think he is a guy who every Sunday, like, he just gives you 300 yards. And you're like, huh? Where did those come from? And then you watch each throw, and you're like, I guess. Like, all right, I guess. I don't think it's ever going to translate to wins, and I don't think he's going to be the guy. But best case scenario... And this is a lot. This is really lofty expectation for Sam Howell. I think he might turn into like a Ryan Fitzpatrick, where he's just like in the league, and every time a team needs a quarterback, go get Sam Howell. I don't know what it is about him. I really like watching him play. What do I think about the Wizards? I've kind of shit on them a lot, honestly, in the last 2 weeks, and I kind of don't want to keep doing it. Don't want another like Houston Rockets, Jalen Green situation, although who ended up being right about that? I'm not bitter. So I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit. We actually, hey, I just gave a bunch of credit to Bilal Coulibaly. I really, really like him. Even Denny Avdi, I was making fun of him the other day, but he had a pretty decent game the other night. Yeah, I would say this to anybody who's like, if the Spurs didn't have Victor Wembanyama, I would be saying the same thing to them. But just through virtue of him, like the greatest rookie that we've literally ever seen, you have every reason to watch him. If he's not checked into the game, in the 25 to 29 minutes that he'll play in a game, watch those, and then otherwise it's like, what else? What are you trying to see? You really interested in these Sohan minutes? I've heard him pronounced both ways. I tend to say Sohan. I think I'm getting to Jacob, a.k.a. Rusty Bucket's brain, and so I keep saying Sohan. But I think it's kind of a potato-potato situation. I would punt on the Wizards. You know what the worst part is if you're a Pistons fan, if you're a Wizards fan? Normally I would lump in the Hornets, but they've not been bad recently. There's actually been some compelling things about them, some reason to watch them, like sneaky winning some games here and there. What's the temperature check on Miles Bridges for Hornets fans? Are they just kind of like cheering in silence? Because people just don't really talk about him. I think people are kind of afraid to admit one way or another how they feel about him. If he's on their basketball team. Like, I know Pistons fans are they're gonna 180 real quick. They're saying right now how much they do not want him on their team. I'm inclined to agree with them, by the way. But it's gonna change if he signs a contract. The worst part about it for Wizards fans and Pistons fans is that you can be this bad and there's still a chance that you're going to be picking 5th or 6th. Like, when it's all said and done, I mean, for all intents and purposes, these are the two teams that are going to be, in some order 1 and 2 in the lottery. And so what does that mean? You can only fall to, if you're first, you can only fall to 4th or 5th. And then if you're second, you can fall to 5th or 6th, right? I think that's what it is. That's the reality that you're looking at. That's the barrel of the gun that you're staring down. And I don't know what the Wizards' lottery history is like. I'm like just trying to rack my brain. They got John Wall as the first pick. Is that the only #1 pick that they ever had? Because I think Cade is the only first that we've ever had. Because historically, the Pistons up until the Cade lottery had never moved up before. We had only fallen or gone exactly where we were supposed to. And that's why it was like a holy shit, we did it. It wasn't just that we won the lottery. It was because it was the first time that ever happened. The year that we got Killian, I think we were supposed to be like 4th or something, right? And the 7th pick in the draft is just like historically where Detroit always falls to. Like, if you look at it, it's just always where we end up. That's what's the most terrifying to me. The Pistons and the Wizards actually play in about 3 weeks. And I don't know if there's a game that truly I'm more excited for, because I have talked a lot of shit and backed up almost none of it. What's the season series right now? I think it's Wizards 2-1. So it stinks that if Detroit wins, it's like, well, it's still tied. I believe it's 2-1 right now. But hey, we did still get that first one. And at this point, it's like, don't be that team. Don't lose to the Wizards. So yeah, Tom, join me. Lock arms with me. And let's give up. And now, let's move on. We haven't done a YouTube advice thing in a while. And I think this guy needs some tough love. I think he needs somebody to rough him up a little bit. I've spent days kind of chuckling to myself over this one. And I've been like, Nick, you're going to be too mean to him. He needs some support right now, but he needs like constructive criticism. Okay? But as soon as I read this email, there are going to be a few parts where even you're going to kind of do a little nasal exhale at home. You're going to be like, oh my God. Like, relax a little bit. Okay? So let's get through it and let's see where it goes. This email comes to us from Ethan. Ethan, welcome to the show. Subject line, Nick, help. I'm not educated. My name is Ethan. I recently just started my YouTube channel. I'm not reading your fucking... Redacted. No free promo. I've fallen in love with the process of creating videos, from research to recording to editing to the thumbnails. How seriously should I take this? Like, if I want to do YouTube, am I going to need a regular job too? How the fuck am I supposed to know how much they're going to pay me if I get popular? Do you still have a job, or are you full-time on YouTube? If not, would you ever go full-time on YouTube, and what would it take for you to do so? I don't know if I'm being ignorant, but I apologize. But I do want to do this YouTube thing, but I don't know if it's worth it. It's hard to have 2 jobs and to be able to take time to make quality videos consistently. I'm turning 18 tomorrow and have a green light from my pops to take 6 months to quit a job and focus on YouTube to see if I can get anything going. What do you think? This email was sent 3 days ago, so as of right now, Ethan is 18. He's a legal adult, so I can be a little bit meaner to him. I'm not going to be mean to you, Ethan. Take a breath. Like, it's okay. And then he did send up a follow-up email and I will read that just for posterity, just so I'm being fair here. And it was like immediately, like it was like 15 minutes later. Now that I read this back, I see that it looks like I think becoming full-time on YouTube is an easy thing, and I don't mean to sound like it, but I do have a large amount of confidence in what I can do if I put real time into it. Do you, Ethan? I couldn't convey that through the first email, that you have a lot of confidence. All right, let's jump into this. Ethan, if I am mean to you at any point, you do not need to send a follow-up email apologizing and being like, I'm sorry that like, it's fine, okay? You're good, dude. But this was like an alarm bell going off. Okay, I was like, I think someone needs to talk to this kid. Okay, you're quitting your job. That's great. That's great. I'm excited for you. You're living at home. Like, you don't have that like external stress. Like, you are at a point in your life right now where you can do this. Okay, where you can take this risk. You do have this opportunity in front of you. That's good. That is very, very good. It is also very nice that you have a supportive father in this venture. Because that's half the battle, is having people who are in this with you. They believe in you, and they know what you're capable of. That's not nothing. Don't take that for granted. That's a huge deal, okay? And I'm honestly happy for you there, okay? How long is it going to take before you start making money and like all this bullshit? Okay, let me explain this to you. When you start making videos and you go into like the creator studio and you go over to the monetization tab, what does it tell you? It's going to tell you that you need like, I think it's like 500 subs and like 1,000 hours of watch time. Maybe it's changed since I a couple of years ago started doing this. I don't know what it's at now, but it's something through that, right? You need X amount of subscribers and you need X amount of watch hours. That can't just be you playing shit in the background, okay? Like on loop overnight to like try to accrue as much as you can. That is going to have to be actual people, because otherwise, once you do finally get monetized, you're still not going to make any money because nobody's watching your videos. It was just you. I don't know if that's what your plan was, but hey. When you do finally get monetized, if you got monetized today, you wouldn't get paid for a month and a half. And when that does finally happen, when you're first, and that's if, somehow you could even pull that off. And when that does finally happen, you know what that check is going to look like? Your first one, if you're lucky, $50. So when you're only getting paid, once a month, and especially when you're starting early on, like I remember my first 2 YouTube checks were anomalies, because the YouTube algorithm was in my favor in a way that was like almost unprecedented for like just a dude, right? Not like Mr. Beast numbers, but like for a dude who had only been on YouTube for like a month, my second YouTube check was 5 figures. Huh? Like what? And that was right before I went to California. So like if I didn't have that money, I would have been screwed. Like I would have been homeless really, really quick, because I was living in hotels for the first 6 months that I was in Los Angeles. And I was only there for a year. Okay? That was me getting really, really lucky. Most people, especially in 2024, aren't going to have that same luck. It's really, really difficult. My advice to you would be to focus on, if that's your goal, is to make this your job, and to make this like your long-term plan of, is being a content creator, you're going to need to focus on long-form content that you can turn into short-form content. Because the way that YouTube is pivoting, it's clear that they want to incentivize people using, YouTube Shorts. And that's something that I'm just never... every now and then, don't be surprised if you eventually see me utilizing Shorts a little bit. But I would be shocked if it's ever breakout content from existing stuff like this show or whatever it is. It would probably just kind of be its own thing where like I just have a quick take that I want to fire off or something like that. But it's my goal is not to like pop off through short form content, because it's just a rabbit hole that I don't want to fall down. But since now, I believe as of maybe like a year-ish ago, maybe a little sooner than that, I think you're able to monetize shorts now. And for a while, that wasn't the case. I don't know what the revs share is on that. I don't know if it's like more lucrative than just doing like longer form content. I imagine if you do it the right way, you could turn the money hose on and it could turn into a cash cow, but I don't know. Yes, you're going to need a second job for a while. And these 6 months, dude, really use it to your advantage. You're going to hit a creative wall in a month. If you really put your nose to the grindstone on this thing, Like, you will hit a creative wall at some point, and you're going to wonder, like, if you made the right decision. But if you have the right support system around you, and again, dude, it sounds like you do, like, you just got to keep going. You just got to keep hashing out ideas. Don't go into fucking, like, Chat GPT and be like, what's a good content idea? You're cooked. You're cooked. This isn't for you. Find a new lane, right? Do something else for a little while. Go fill out job applications if that's what you have to start resorting to. But listen, man, there was something else in here that just, like, kind of blew my mind. I'm happy you're having fun with it. It should be fun. It is a very, very fun experience. That was what I wanted to say, is like, is this my job? Is it my full time with this? Yes, but I don't make money off of this show. Like, I don't make a dime off of this show. The money that I make is through editing videos for Jacob, aka Rusty Buckets. That's my bread and butter. So, like, this show is more or less, it's kind of just like therapy for me. And it's a way for me to get, like, my everyday histrionics out into a microphone, onto a camera, and have it live in perpetuity on the internet. You know, a couple of years ago, that was my goal, was to, like, make this my job. Now I just do it for sort of the art of it. I just really love the performance, and I really love throwing fastballs into a microphone, and that's it. But obviously, your goal here is for it to turn into something long term. I would maybe adjust the time frame in your head of when that's going to happen. Lightning could strike immediately, dude. That's the beauty of the YouTube algorithm, is you never know what video it's going to be that pops off. And it's good that you're taking time, you know, researching these videos, and especially that you're taking time to work on these thumbnails, because that's like half the battle in the YouTube algorithm. Part of the reason why these, you know, shows never, like, you don't really see them in the YouTube algorithm is because the titles are not SEO friendly, which is something that you should look into, is if you don't know about, like, SEO and how, like, Google ranking works, look into that, because that matters. Make sure you're utilizing the tags when you're going to upload a video, stuff like that. And then the thumbnail also really matters. And the thumbnail for these videos suck. It's always just the same thing. It's just the number that's different. But I like it, right? It's just an aesthetic thing. I just really like how it looks. But adjust that timeline in your head a little bit. Because, again, you don't know when it could happen. But I worry that you think it's going to happen sooner than it actually or likely would. And that's just going to discourage you if the numbers aren't where you want them to be. You know? Make sure that you're networking with other people, right? I know, just as a quick aside, I know I'm talking to this guy specifically. But I want everybody, to Ethan specifically, but I want everybody, anybody who's, you know, trying to, you know, thinking about starting YouTube, use this. This is all applicable. And I don't even know that much about it. This is just, I'm just giving you shit through my own experience. And at the end of the day, I am one of those people, unfortunately, who's like, well, this was my experience, so this must be what everybody's experience was, right? Don't let those numbers discourage you, would be my biggest piece of advice, because the truth is that they're probably not going to be where you want them to be, even after like a month or two. Make sure you're networking with people. Find people who are like-minded in the creative sense. You know, if you're making basketball videos, I believe it looked like you were, you know, get on Twitter. Get on, I don't know, join some Discords. Get on Reddit. Don't get on Reddit. Don't join, like, NBA Circle Jerk. And that's like a whole, people talk about the alt-right pipeline. The shit-posting pipeline is like it's a totally different beast, right? But I was lucky enough that one of the reasons that my channel did so well was because Jacob, aka Rusty Buckets, and I, like, formed a relationship, and it kind of snowballed really quick. And I was, like, obsessed with him. You know what's funny is, I don't know if he knows this. My relationship with Jacob, I've told him this before, but he's probably forgotten it because it's been years since I would have said this. I've brought him up a lot in this episode, so I'm hoping this is the last time. I've talked about him a lot, and not hoping as if I don't want to talk about him, but I know some of you don't, whatever. Don't like him, Jacob. Everybody loves you, don't worry. When I first found out about who Jacob was, I think it was, I mean, it was either a YouTube video or it was from Twitter. And then I started watching his videos. That's what it was. I started watching his videos. I found him on Twitter, and I became one of his reply guys because I just wanted to be his friend really, really bad. And then eventually I think he found out that I also made content. And then he followed me, and it like super quickly snowballed into a friendship. And then him and like Rudy and some other guys, like miscellaneous guys here and there, we would all sit on Zoom together and like watch basketball games. And there was one day specifically, Mom and Grandma, you guys can plug your ears for this one. There was one day specifically where I had, like the other day, taken shrooms with a friend. And then the next day, like I still had a little bit left over. And I was like, we're just hanging out, like watching basketball. So I took them. I was fucking tweaking. I was safe. I was fine. Nothing bad happened. But like I was spazzing. And I know Jacob will remember that. And then I think that was kind of the moment that it was like, this is a good friendship and this is going to work. So between me, him, and Rudy, like I just love them. I love them so much, and I'm so thankful for them. So I only bring that up to say I was able to find success because I formed relationships with other people who were doing the same thing. And then they were able to, you know, help me grow my channel in a way that I otherwise probably would have had a hard time doing it. So that's what I got for you, Ethan. I'm happy for you for starting this journey. It's good to have this confidence. Just manage expectations, okay? Let's move on. We're going to wrap up the show in just a second. I said I was going to talk about the Celtics. Don't worry, I didn't forget about that. So they just broke, was it the NBA record or was it a franchise record for most 50-point wins in a season? You see that I wasn't watching the Warriors Celtics game yesterday. Because I was like, I don't think that's going to be a good game. I didn't think it was going to be that not good of a game. I just didn't think it was going to be a good game. Also, because like I said, I was just doing moving stuff and, you know, furniture and whatnot. I was just busy, whatever. I don't care. And then the first clip I see from it is like Chris Paul hitting a layup to cut the deficit to like 48-90. The fuck is going on in this game? Huh? So is this the year for the Celtics? Is that the sentiment? Is it finally happening? Is it true? Is that thing true about them having a camera crew following them around this season and it's like their version of The Last Dance? Was the quote. So the Bulls, not only did they have a first dance, they had 5 separate to The Last Dance. The Celtics, if we're being generous, have had 1, but it didn't count because they lost. And so that's like, what, half? And then other than that, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2018 with Tatum and Brown. And then between that, surely they've been to maybe one other one. When did they lose to the... No, that was the semifinals that I'm thinking of. How many times have they been to a conference finals? I think twice, maybe 3 times. You know what I was reliving in my head? I was thinking about Derek White because of the Celtics, and I was thinking about how sick Derek White is. And I was like, was the game winner that he hit against Miami last spring in the playoffs? I mean, that'll go down as like an all-time playoff buzzer beater. Is it the best one since... What was first? Was it Kawhi over the Raptors or Dame over Paul George? Was that the same year? There's no way that was the same fucking year. That would be insane if it was. Whatever was most recent, it's probably Derek White's playoff buzzer beater was probably the most insane since that. To this day, I was watching Dame over PG live. I was watching that live. But to this day, I hold a little resentment towards the Kawhi Game 7 buzzer beater against the 76ers when he was with Toronto and it bounced around. We all know what I'm talking about. The reason was because that game was the same night as the season 7 premiere, or season 8. What was the last season? The last season of Game of Thrones, the first episode premiered that night. And I think it came out during like the third quarter is when it aired. And we had waited like 2 years for Game of Thrones to come back. It's the final season. Like, of course I'm going to watch this. Yeah, it's Game 7. And my brother was like, dude, the episode will still be there when the game is over. Like, we can just finish this game. I was like, no. Like, we have to watch Thrones. Like, this is what. So he's like, whatever, fine. So we watched the episode. Hey, we know now that the season was probably the worst season of television ever. And that first episode was like, fine, nothing really happened in it. And as soon as it ends, like I go to Twitter to see what people are saying about the episode. And all of a sudden I see these highlights. I see these people going insane about something else. I was like, what the fuck happened? And then I see the shot. I didn't watch it live. I was watching Game of Thrones. That is devastating. That to miss like an all-time iconic, not just NBA moment, like an all-time holy shit moment in sports. Sorry if I just like unplugged the mic. Hopefully you can still hear me. I'm in a swivel chair now, and so I'm having a hard time like sitting still. And the problem with that is I keep yanking a bunch of cords around. So if that ends up being an issue, then I apologize for that. What else is going on in my world? My girlfriend and I, we were playing a game last night where, hey, fellas, you know how, like, when you're with the boys and you just are like, hey, let's play a game where we name quarterbacks? And that's the game. But, like, you'll, like, add random stipulations where you're like, oh, we can't name, like, it has to be pre-2018. Or, like, it has to be, like, let's name AFC North quarterbacks from 2006 to, like, 2019. Like, you'll just do a random game like that. The one I had last night, we were eating food, we were eating dinner, and I was like, let's name actors, but like we'll start with like a lower level actor, and then we have to get a little bit better with each one that we name. And you can't just be an asshole and I say like I started with Shia LaBeouf. So the goal is to say somebody who's like a little bit better than him. And she's supposed to. And then I say somebody who's a little bit better than them. And then she says somebody who's, right, you get how the game. Don't be an asshole and just immediately be like, Meryl Streep. Like, don't be that guy. Can we actually play the game? And that was really fun. What it ended up turning into was me realizing how much I love Michael Fassbender. And she hadn't seen The Killer yet, a movie that came out in like the fall of last year with Michael Fassbender. Tilda Swinton is technically in it, but like, no, she's not. Oh my God. And she hadn't seen it. So we actually watched that last night. So it's the second time that I've seen it. That movie is David Fincher, I think, right? Well, the first time I saw it, I thought it was I thought it was sneaky at miss. And the second time I was like, wait, this is a movie Rule? It has some of the best sound design I've ever heard in a movie in my life. If you're watching it on like if you're watching it on your phone, make sure you're wearing headphones. Because it's like an audio experience. Son. I don't even have that much else. I'm like looking around, like trying to see. Got a beautiful view over here. Once we get some boxes and stuff out of the way, I'll make sure I can show it to you guys. Beautiful view of the city. 16th floor. Here's the problem. I've been on like 50 planes in my life. I've been at some pretty high altitudes. I've never had the thing happen where your ears pop from being really high up, and I've always kind of been annoyed about that because I've always wanted to know what that feels like. People are always like, it's really uncomfortable. I'm like, well, I'd love to fucking find out. 16th floor, not that high up, but like, I don't know, what is that, 500 feet? I don't know how much that is in meters for our non-American friends, non-American listeners of the show. Oh, that was another thing, Australia. I thought the numbers were crazy on YouTube. Dog, the Australia numbers on Spotify are like off the charts. Also, I said something a few weeks ago. I was like, the women listenership of the Coping Hour, we need to get it to 1%. I should have looked at Spotify. It's like 6%. Huh? Nice. Nice. Good job, ladies. Thank you for listening to the show. The hell was I talking about? Oh, yeah. Well, living this high up, my ears just keep popping. We're not even that high, but my brain just like isn't used to it. So like I just some days like just can't hear out of one ear, and then I have to do the thing where you plug your nose and then like blow out your nose at the same time. Pop, pop. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, if you are listening, usually the outro of the show where I'm rapping, when I say like, all right, let's start wrapping things up. Usually that's my favorite part of the show because that means I could just totally ISO and talk about whatever I want. I'm sorry, I don't actually have that much to say. My hands really hurt from being Bob the Builder. And if I don't have anything to say, it's okay. We can wrap up the show. If you are listening to this on Spotify, be sure to rate 5 stars. If you're listening to this on YouTube, leave a like. Subscribe. Nice little comment for the algorithm. I will catch you guys
Computers now have
in the next
control.
Beautiful, beautiful,
Primary control.
beautiful,
Primary control.
beautiful.
Primary control.